Everybody, happy 4th of July. Okay, but I hope everyone had a great one, and I'm sure that people are still celebrating 250 years. 250 years. We're the oldest country in the world. We're the oldest country. I've been saying it for a few, years since I've been doing this podcast. We're the oldest country in the world. It's such an accomplishment, and it tells you that there's something right about our Constitution, something right about our system, because we've been under so much assault, so much assault. It's like here I live in South Carolina, and we have, uh, you know, thick skin, I guess. What am I trying to say? Um, our country has taken so much assault, and it's withstood it. Have we taken damage? Yes. Um, can we come back? Yes, of course, of course. Um, but we have withstood so much damage, and of course, being a Gold Star mother and losing my youngest son to this attack on our country is, it's hard to be upbeat, right? It's hard to be upbeat, but that's what the enemy wants to happen to you. They want to take away your will to fight back, and your love for the country, and what's right. And they want you to be depressed and, just curl up in a corner so they could take over the whole country and destroy more people's lives and more people's sons and daughters, um, and just rob and pillage and take the spoils for themselves, and leave nothing, give nothing. And we're just not willing to do that. We're not willing to let them get away with what they did to Richard. And because it was an act of war, it was totally an act of war. I mean, what, 2,162 days since he was forcibly removed from his barracks room because he was a whistleblower, and he didn't get whistleblower protection because the cartel infiltration had infiltrated the chain of command, because they were stealing fuel. They were stealing everything off of Fort Bliss, and they were infiltrating into the military so that they could control Fort Bliss, right? That's why they even had to compromise the soldiers by bringing in these young girls, these underage girls, pimping them out, letting them live in the barracks, and bringing in the drugs, and even having all kinds of nonsense going on in the barracks, and um, uh, passing around illegal videos, and Richard was turning that in, and then all the guns, and having the class six, which is alcohol, right beside the barracks. So I can't tell you how many. There's so many soldiers that said when they were at Fort Bliss, they stayed drunk the whole time, the whole 2 or 3 years they were there. And so, yeah, uh, they were compromising. This is what they want to do. They want to mentally, physically, financially compromise you, and make you afraid, and get some blackmail on you, and that way that they can do their illegal activity that goes against our Constitution, that goes against our country, that goes against the future of our country. Any kind of golden age, they don't want a golden age. They don't want that. They don't want a federal government. They are absolutely uh, they don't even want it for themselves, because they get it and then they waste it, and they themselves are just so miserable creatures. They are so miserable. And I just can't even tell you all of the evidence, what that has showed, who they are. As you know, I can just say, if you picture hell, that's what they are, because they're so self-absorbed, and they themselves are depressed. They themselves are discontent. Have nothing really that yeah, nothing really that they love. They just, it's just that miserable. So, that's why 4th of July is so important, 1776 so important, um, 250 years so important, because we have withstood, um, all of the shenanigans, and there has been a lot. There's been a lot. And of course, we can focus on all the problems. We can focus on all of our sins, but we can also focus, um, on the future, and all the things that we can do right, and use the country that we've been given, and give back to it, right? Give back in a positive way. Um, and yeah, it's just it's hard to explain just on a quick podcast, but I'm gonna do it, because Richard was forcibly removed down to the basement room, to the arms room, where they took his life. And they then, with their scheming, with their hell, with the organ harvesting, with the dismemberment, with the funeral fraud, with the trafficking, they took his body over to Juarez for disposal. And then there was this, horrific, horrific cover up, where so many people got hurt. It just, I can't even tell you the number of people that are facing charges, right? Facing, eh, they're just out to ruin even themselves. And I think Conal Whetten is the greatest example of that, right? And I need hours to talk about Conal Whetten. He is the FBI agent that has a long tenure there, in the El Paso FBI field office, a very long tenure. And he is a product of the Mormon colonies in Chihuahua. That doesn't mean that he has loyalty to them, okay? Because he has no loyalty to anything, really. Um, you could see it in his eyes. He has no loyalty to anything, not to Mexico. I don't think to even his religion. I don't think to, of course, not to the United States. And he somehow got in, I guess, human resources and the deep state that he serves, or gives the appearance of serving, right? Um, put him there in the El Paso field office, and he's just, he just uh, is up to no good, right? Um, just self-serving in that field office, and his wife is very active with the Mormon community in El Paso. Um, so there was just evidence after evidence of them working with the Mormon community to keep them as their allies. That's why he's protected Leilani Hart and Tavita Nusa and Solomon Nusa and Danae Katzen, and because we wrote, when Danae Katzen was arrested, we wrote and said she's a flight risk. Watch out, she's a flight risk. Um, and they, did not listen to us. And of course, now she's a fugitive. Um, Along with her husband, with who was 143 ADA. Okay, her husband was 143 ADA on Fort Bliss. So the connections are all there with the cartel, and of course he's cartel. He's part of the funeral fraud. She's part of the funeral fraud. She's part of the horse fraud. Okay, this is something that I haven't mentioned that's coming out, and I want to thank those that are sending me information. But this is important because Lalani had horses, Danae has horses, Deliris has horses, Molinar has horses. They have horses, and they don't seem to treat their horses too good. And now it's coming out that the cartel will take means, and I don't even want to describe them because it's so bad, but they treat the horses really bad to use their bodies as vessels, um, alive, to bring over drugs, to traffic drugs over through these horses, right? And it's just heartbreaking because they have to keep the horses very drugged to do it, and they end up, of course, suffering terribly and even dying. So yes, thank you so much. Thank you. The day of reckoning is coming 100%. Thank you so much. I had no idea. Yeah, they have, I think that you're talking about our son, the whistleblower, and what they did on base to him, and then trafficking him, and then covering all this up, and telling us we had to do the investigation, right? That's what they told us. If they wanted, if we would have to bring them leads, or they couldn't even help us. That's what they said. So we got busy. And we have been doing this for 6 years, day in and day out. And we have found a load, a mountain of evidence. And we had no idea either that it was this El Paso cartel conglomerate. And what do I mean by that? The El Paso cartel. Sometimes they call themselves philanthropists, but they're not. They're El Paso cartel, y'all. They've all into money laundering, fuel theft, all kinds of up to nothing. And they'll, like put lipstick on a pig. That means they're like, oh, we're going to give to this, but they always have some other reason for doing what they're doing because of money laundering and taxes, and or hiding their crime, and all of that. So but the El Paso cartel conglomerate, because it's been confirmed that they have made alliances with CJNG cartel, the flesh peddlers, that's La Diabla, right? That's the baby harvester, the organ harvester, that they've made alliances with them. They're deeply embedded in El Paso. And of course, Alejandra de la Vega Foster, an operative for the El Paso cartel, had a dinner fundraiser at her home for Governor Greg Abbott to introduce him to the CJNG as alliances, okay, as an alliance. This is how they are so up to no good, and have no intention for the success of our country to go further. If they could end it at 250 years, they would have done it. Um, they don't want America to go on. They don't want Mexico to go on. They have no regard for the sovereignty of our countries, and they're constantly working to infiltrate and to break both countries so that they can raid it, right? That they can do even more harm than what, and they've done a lot of harm. That is what I want to talk to you today about, is what their intentions were when it came to El Mayo Zambada and what Colin Whetten just did. Wowzer, on 1776, on the 250th birthday. Well, I think it was yesterday. He did it yesterday, but it takes a little bit to get out. But he just confessed to the unauthorized rogue operation. He just confessed to murder. He just confessed to treason. He just confessed to transnational trafficking. He also corroborated this stunt that he did yesterday. He just corroborated that the El Chapo fentanyl governor, who is the El Chapo Sinaloa proxy, Maru Campos, because she got all her funding to be mayor, to be governor through funding of El Chapo. Okay, so she is the proxy for El Chapo Sinaloa. There in Chihuahua, Mexico, and of course, who was the one that trapped El Mayo, that betrayed El Mayo? Well, it was El Chapo's son, right? It was El Chapo's son that did that. And of course, they are in alliance with Maru Campos. So the rogue operation, the Sinaloa betrayal of El Mayo, um, the FBI's confessing to be involved in this, because even if the FBI wasn't involved, it was still a rogue operation because Mexico City was not informed. There was, no international order, right? There was no federal discussions about it or, whatever. So this is Maru Campos absolutely engaged in treason against the homeland, against her homeland, Mexico. Absolutely. And Conal Whetten, the assistant special agent in charge. And when I started this, I said he has this long tenure. Okay. So I think this is like his sixth special agent in charge that he's gone through at that office. He's always been there, and then the head guy, they rotate out, right? So they've had like six of them. And I think I've even listed it and posted it up on Find Richard Holiday Facebook. So he's really the guy, okay? He's really the dirty agent in charge of the dirty El Paso uh FBI office, okay? He's it. There might be special agents in charge like Morales, like Jared Brown, like what's another guy that we got out? So we've been through three of them already through in these 6 years. We've been through three sacks. Um, and he's really always been under the radar. Here we are riding to the sacks, and really the guy that's in charge, because it's a cartel run office, right? And he's the cartel's inside man. He's the cartel's inside man. And so he came out yesterday in the wide open for everyone to see, confessing to these major crimes. Holy smokes, he was smoked out, right? Holy smokes. God smoked him out. He was smoked out of there. And we're hoping that a lot of the work that we've been doing behind the scenes with Mexico, with the United States, um, helped smoke him out, right? But we know that God's in charge of all things, and um, I just that was such a it was such a great 4th of July gift to have him smoked out of that office for everyone to see that, he's not a ghost that we were talking about, that he's a real human in the flesh that we were talking about, that is up to no good, that, and the personal, uh violation that he did is that he is the one that told the cartel Richard's identity, okay? Because Richard was whistleblowing, and he told the El Paso cartel conglomerate who was whistleblowing, okay? And that so he's absolutely responsible for our son's death, okay? He really is responsible for our son's death because he didn't protect Richard, and he was the cartel inside man. It's just so bad. It is so bad. Um So, like I said, he has no loyalty, he has no loyalty even to a young man that doesn't want to see children being sexually, um, whatever they were doing to them, right? Exploitation, sexual exploitation. Um, uh, uh, he doesn't even have loyalty to a young man that wants to protect children, that wants to protect women, that wants to protect our military, who doesn't like the thieves, and the oil theft, the fuel theft is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. More and more information is coming out. So, let's talk about the kidnapping of El Mayo, okay? And why did that happen? We know that in 2019, I believe it was that El Chapo was arrested. El Chapo and El Mayo, they are the ones that started Sinaloa cartel. They are the uh, uh, what do you call them? The godfathers of the Sinaloa cartel, the founding fathers of the Sinaloa cartel. That all sounds too nice to me. The kingpins, the okay. So because they controlled a vast amount of wealth. Okay, both of them billionaires. Okay, vast amount of wealth and power, and a power that a lot of people don't want to have because your life is on the line all the time and you have to do the most despicable things to stay in power. And so neither one of them are good people. Okay, I just want to tell you that El Mayo and El Chapo, really despicable. Okay. But out of the two, El Mayo's a little more conservative. Um, didn't want to do the meth. Okay, he had a couple lines he didn't want to cross. Um, neither one of them were conservative. Neither one of them cared, but one was worse than the other a little bit. And El Chapo was ready to make a deal with the El Paso cartel. He was making alliances with the El Paso cartel. That's why the El Chapo Sinaloa cartel was funding. Remember Lalo Almeida, the finance guy for El Chapo, was funding Maru Campos, okay, and her campaign bids. So she is totally indebted to them. Of course, she is also, a product of Cesar Duarte, and all this money laundering going on. Sorry. Um, so yeah, uh, but this is all evident of the El Chapo Sinaloa cartel. But he got arrested, okay? He got arrested, and of course, he's extradited to the United States, and um, so the cases were rolling and everything like that. And this is, from my opinion, from looking at all the evidence, uh, that the El Paso cartel wanted to jump on it. They wanted it all. They wanted the entire Sinaloa cartel to themselves, not not let the Maíces do. That's the El Mayo arm of the Sinaloa cartel, the faction, not let the Maíces have that part of the Sinaloa cartel, not let El Chapo have his faction of the Sinaloa cartel. The El Paso cartel wanted it all. They wanted to get rid of the Sinaloa, rename it. They wanted to rename it like, they wanted to rename the military bases, right? From Fort Hood to Fort Cavazos, they wanted to rename the Sinaloa cartel to, well, I don't know. But anyway, it was the El Paso cartel um, and they had to make the deals, right? They had to make the alliances with CJNG and the Juarez cartel, which is, and La Linea. Juarez cartel is so splintered, because it doesn't have like a really good leader over it. So they readily make alliances with the El Paso cartel. Uh, but from the evidence absolutely shows that. That's not my opinion. And the big fish were the Sinaloa, El Chapo, and El Mayo. And so, they needed El Mayo. He was a holdout. They wanted his stuff. It's not enough that they steal from the Mexican people, from Huachicol, right? The fuel theft. It's not enough that they steal, like, I can't even tell you how much from USAID and from the United States and all their fraud. And it's not enough that they steal from grieving families when it comes to the funeral fraud. It's not enough that they target and steal babies and harvest organs, which is theft the way they do it. Um, it's not enough that they steal off of Fort Bliss. It's not enough. They wanted to steal from El Mayo. Okay, they wanted to take what he had. And so they made a deal with El Chapo's son. And he did. He made a deal and he betrayed El Chapo. And the El Paso cartel got their plane ready, and the way they fly, the El Paso cartel doesn't fly, legally. They put in a really large gas tank. They want everyone else to save energy, but they themselves, they can use whatever they want. They put in an extra large gas tank. I'm doing this from memory. They turned off the transponder. They stole a license plate, a license number from a different plane to put on it. They erased the serial number, or put a fraudulent serial number. The pilot didn't even have, we know who the pilot is. We don't, he didn't even have, and, I can put he, she, whatever. But didn't, he didn't have a license, right? It was an expired pilot's license. And I have the whole thing here. Oh yeah. Um, the emergency locator was removed. Yeah, the fuel system was modified to make it really large. This is for long distances. The voice recorder is gone. The engine. So laws for you, but not laws for them. They don't have to follow it. They can tamper all they want. And this is the problem with these these cartels, the El Paso cartel, they just do not honor the countries that they live in. Okay, they do not honor it. The engine data plates were removed, navigation, communication systems were disabled, geolocation was turned off, which prevented the Mexican government uh, radar from detecting the flight. So they're just flying totally illegally. Um, the lightning system was altered. I mean, everything is, and now, so they go into Sinaloa, right? And they set up a meeting with a politician. The politician, um, Hector, I know his name is Hector. Um, um, yeah, I don't know if I can pronounce this. Ojeda, Hector Ojeda, Cuen. Someone tell me how to say that. Quinn, Quinn Ojeda. He's okay. So he was there. He was killed. Now they set up like this gas station theft kind of thing, a gas station to fake that he got killed there. But that has been debunked, not by me. This is by the FDR, the Mexican investigators, because his blood was at the scene where they kidnapped El Mayo, not at the gas station. So he was killed at the farm. I believe they call it a farm or a ranch. And so the murder happened. Okay, this is what I'm saying. It didn't go like quietly. They actually killed somebody when they kidnapped El Mayo. And that's why Conal Whetten, because he said, I was in charge of this operation. Okay. He just confessed to murder. That's what he did. Okay. To this politician, to this very well known politician in Mexico. Um, so the other thing is, uh, he just admitted to carrying on this operation. Now, at the time in 2024, this is before Trump, this is during Biden, the Sinaloa cartel were not designated a transnational terroristic organization. Okay. So he really had no authority to do this rogue, unauthorized operation. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going after the cartel." No, you can't, the FBI can't just go over into Mexico and call you out and say, "You're cartel, I'm going after you." There has to be extradition papers, there has to be international agreements, working together with it. Now that he's in big trouble, he's saying, "Oh, well, we're going over there again, but with the permission of Mexico." Yeah, yeah, he should have thought about that in 2024, because he didn't. He did it illegally. And that tells you that Mario Campos, who has admitted that there was um, kidnapping going on, she goes, "Oh, there was extraditions." No, there's no extradition without judges being involved and extradition orders being involved and international agreement orders being involved here, right? At a federal level, not like this treasonous treaty she signed with Governor Abbott. No, this had to be a federal level between DC and Mexico City. So this corroborates that she was active in committing treason against the homeland. Um, so absolutely not following the laws, not following the laws when it comes to the plane. And then a murder happened. So you have treason, you have um, this whole trafficking, you have murder, you have transnational trafficking because they kidnapped El Mayo and took him over to the United States, to El Paso, to El Paso, to where the FBI, Conal Whetten's men, were waiting for him. And I'm sure that he was there waiting for El Mayo and El Chapo's son to arrest them, right? To arrest them uh, illegally, without extradition, without any kind of agreement, without. So they think that they could just go and capture someone, whenever they felt like it. They could just take someone. And okay, in this case, it is, El Mayo. But now El Mayo, um, it's going to be interesting with this confession. What El Mayo, he's older, and his lawyer, Ray Velarde, is not really on his side, okay? Because Ray Velarde has a lot to lose here, because Ray Velarde was pointed to Richard. He is in cahoots with the El Paso, in alliance with the El Paso cartel, okay? Because he lives in El Paso, right? He lives in El Paso. He's with Jaime Esparza. He's with David Guadarrama, all of the cartel infiltrators, right? Absolutely cartel infiltrators into the El Paso system. And up to no good, right? They tampered with the election, with the Walmart mass shooting, that Richard then was like, wait a minute. Oh, what's going on here? They're attacking President Trump, and I know this, and I know this because the military was involved. And we know that the military was involved with the Walmart mass shooting because the evidence says so, not me. The evidence says so. We know that it was orchestrated because the evidence says so, and we know that it was tampered with. We know that because of witness and evidence says so, and we know that it was staged because witness and evidence says so. It's just very clear that they had other intentions for the Walmart mass shooting, that it wasn't just some random event, okay? We know that because of Explain Mayella, right? Explain Mayella, and Mayella's connections, and Nadal Baim's connections, and the DA's office, and the the federal prosecutor's office, and the FBI, just it was absolutely a cartel operation. That's what it was. And it was an El Paso cartel conglomerate operation. It was bloody. It was very bloody. Like I said, they don't look, the kidnapping of El Mayo involved murder. Okay? It involved murder. And that's why when Conal Whetten is standing there in this museum, where his office, remember that it's the Purchase Funeral Homes that have the bodies of the Plenitude Crematorium, the very funeral home monopoly that are involved in this funeral fraud are the ones that are keeping the evidence. And so now we have the FBI, going, okay, what do we do with this very tampered plane that has been, put out? We can't really fly it anymore because it's been exposed. And now I've been exposed. Holy smokes, I've been smoked out. And now I'm going to stand in front of the evidence that indicts me, right? And tell everybody, come to the museum and touch this evidence, tamper with the evidence, come and see it where El Mayo was kidnapped, and tamper with the evidence so that he's covering up or hoping his crime, but then he's confessing to it at the same time. It's really kind of, it's like he must be very desperate to make that bad of a decision, to confess to doing this rogue operation that involves murder and treason and transnational trafficking. Um, it's yeah, he must be pretty desperate or not thinking straight, because now they put this plane during an open investigation. How do we know it's an open investigation? Well, we know from President Scheinbaum's own words that it is an ongoing open investigation. And he's taking the evidence and telling everybody to tamper with it, right? Come and sit. Come to the museum. Like he doesn't have anything better to do than to go to a museum and have people, watch him live stream. He's in hiding for all these years, and now, holy smokes, he's smoked out. And where does he go? To a museum where he can museumify the evidence, right? He wants to like mummify the evidence there so that it can't be used against him because it absolutely indicts him because he's saying, it was me. It was me who did all of these crimes. And then he wants the people to only look at El Mayo, right? And they even want to call the plane the El Mayo plane, but it's not. It's the El Paso Cartel plane. The El Paso Cartel plane. That's what it is. Um, and that's what he's protecting. That's what he is desperately trying to protect. And because it indicts him in this operation, this rogue, unauthorized, treasonous, transnational trafficking, murderous operation that he's confessing to. So, and we already have the two CIA agents that are dead. From an ambush, right? And they went all around, trying to form a narrative. Oh, these are just embassy people, or, this was an accident or whatever. And, but the truth came out. And the same thing with Plenitude Crematorium. They were like, oh, it's only a few bodies, like that's okay if it's only a few bodies. And then, oh, no, maybe it's like 70 bodies. Oh, no, it's probably 170 bodies. Oh, no, we're like 200, now we're over 400 bodies. So they just try to cover, and they don't put out there like they should that Mauro Campos's mother um was involved in that, right? Was involved in that major crime. It's not like, oh, before Maru Campos. No, they were part of that group. Okay. They were part of this El Paso cartel, El Chapo, Sinaloa, CJNG conglomerate with the Juarez cartel, La Linea. And, and yeah, um, it it's just amazing that he confessed to this. So let me answer any questions that you have because I think it's um, really important. And I do have some notes, but I think I covered most of it. Uh, Thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on Iraq. Thank you so much, Danita. Thank you, Laura. Thank you always for your prayers and your love. And Anicia, thank you so much. What was the DA's office browbeating Mexican family that had family member in the Walmart shooting, as reported in the paper? That was uh, that was an attempt. See, that um, family members were receiving Walmart mass shooting victims funds illegally, and there was several people that the distribution of the Walmart mass shooting victims funds was a lot of fraud there, and that was $12 million of funds. Okay, because when something like that happens, Americans open up their wallets and they give a lot of money because they really feel terrible about the victims, and they give a lot of money, and then who was in charge of that money? Well, it was the El Paso Cartel. It was West Star Bank. It was uh, the very El Paso Cartel that orchestrated this Walmart mass shooting, was in charge of the money that was coming in that was supposed to go to the victims. And um, so that story is twisted um, to go after the whistleblower. So the same whistleblower that was whistleblowing on the fraudulent distribution of the Walmart mass shooting victims funds was the whistleblower in our son's case, Judge Roger Rodriguez. And so that is why, um, when we were doing all of our investigations, because that same family is the family of Danae Katzen and Brees. So Danae Katzen Gonzalez and Brees. The same Danae Katzen that is a fugitive, the same that is married to Jonathan Caleb Embreese that was in the 143 ADA, sharing an address, absolutely confirming that they're cartel. And of course, Danae is the one that, well, she's a fugitive because, she had the horses, and of course with Molinar, and Molinar with Amber Chase, because Molinar is the baby daddy for Amber Chase, and of course with Leilani Hart and with Delaris and this group that is the boots on the ground, I guess, to do the dirty work for the El Paso cartel, um, is the same as this family that was retaliating against the whistleblowers. So, um, I hope that I hope that answers that question, because um, that is also ongoing. We are still responding to all that because that's the whistleblower in our son's case that they withheld from us, okay? Because those reports, even if, I mean, the general had that on his desk in January of 2022. Let me make sure. Yes, 2022. Um, I have to relive it all the time. Um, he should have told us. He never told us, okay? Ted Cruz had that on his desk, never told us, "Hey, we have this whistleblower, we're looking into it, this is what he's saying," because he identified Leilani Hart and, the prime suspects in our son's murder. And they were still telling us that Richard was missing. Okay. It wasn't until April 24, 2024, that they finally said, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." And I did find something today and I wanted to share it. But it's from that paperwork, um, that Richard was deceased and he was killed on Fort Bliss. Okay. So um really, you can see how the cartel infiltrated and was trying to manipulate the Walmart case and Richard's case, of course, Julio Cordero's case, the Walmart mass shooting victims funds case, okay, Soroldi's case. There's just a lot of cases in there that have exposed different individuals that are connected to our son's case. It's so much so that, people have said every case is like everything that happens is connected to your son's case. And I'm like, I didn't mean for that to happen. It's just that's the way it is. Because guess why? Because there's one entity behind it, and it's called the El Paso Cartel conglomerate. That's why it's connected. Okay. And they're trying to cover for their political crimes. These are a lot of these crimes are because they want to help out Beto O'Rourke, or they want to help out Kamala Harris. And that's something I almost forgot to tell you. The whole thing with El Mayo, yes, they wanted what he had, but they wanted to do it in 2024 to boost Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris was the border czar that never came to the border. She never cared about the border, and she allowed all the trafficking at the border. And here now, Biden was out, and she was now the new nominee to run for president, and they wanted to make her seem tough on crime at the border. And so uh, the information that we've gotten back is that that is why they decided to make a deal with the El Paso cartel, with El Chapo, and to set up El Mayo and risk, using this El Paso cartel's plane, and using this very compromised FBI office. Um, you know, they wanted this to be a political boost for Kamala Harris. It didn't work. It didn't work. She wasn't a good candidate, y'all. She was not a good candidate. She's just not a, she's up to no good, right? Even for the cartel, she's not a good candidate, right? So yeah, I hope that answers that. I still don't understand how Arleano Caron brothers still operate their restaurants in El Paso. Um, yeah, because they have Samaniago, right? They have Conal Whetten. Um, and the accountability has been focused really on the outer external, right? The turning off all of the pipelines. So they're feeling it, and they're hiding out. They've lost, if you look up their LLCs, they're shutting down their LLCs. They still have Argo Oil and Gas, because I think that is more of a, um, what do you call it? It's not really like an active business. It's like a shell business for for a bigger oil theft or fuel theft. They want to clean up the stolen money trail, right? They want to kind of cover up that trail from the stolen fuel. So and there's all kinds of shell companies, and the documents get uh, forged, and so that's all in that case. If you look up the case of Western Refinery, it's very interesting. How uh, they just are. They just conspire and collude to steal, to kill, to hurt, I mean, they are just the worst. They just are like little witches, or little roaches, and "No, we're Little rats, little rat. And really, that's what Conal Whetten kind of reminded me of yesterday. Like, what a rat to come out. Anyway, uh, yeah, I put up a lot of things are shut down. Believe it or not, they really are. Um, I need to put up the name of his restaurants. I have them in my notes. Because it's a chicken restaurant, but it has a Spanish name. That's why I can't remember it. Um, and they have Church's Chicken too, right? They have Church's Chicken, and there's something, and they have pizza place. Um, Yeah, and of course, bars, which they don't have to have a permit or a liquor license or anything because, laws don't apply to them. They don't have to have a permit for their crematorium that they do flesh peddling in either. A narco uh, operation. What a beautiful 250th anniversary, the concert and speech, and overall the presentation. Um, Wow, thank you so much. It was just amazing. I can tell you, my family had a great time. We were working very, very hard because of all the things going on behind the scenes, but we always take out time. So, mine. Uh, oh, thank you, Karina. Thank you so, so much for coming on. Um, what a beautiful name, too. I love that name. So, okay, thank you so much for joining and wishing me happy 4th. I had such, just so many nice messages, some nice birthday messages since my birthday was on the 2nd. And I'm just so happy to have some positive vibes going on all the time. So, yeah, it's a lot going on behind the scenes that is very, very good. We're really moving forward, and I'm not just saying that. I am not just saying that. It is really, truly moving forward. And when I get frustrated, you'll see it. But no, things are really happening, and it is kind of like we're coming in on El Paso right now. It's getting closer and closer. And you can tell that it's getting closer because Conal Whetten came out. He got smoked out. So someone's smoking him out. Hopefully we helped. But because his game for years and years was to stay hidden behind the scenes and be the inside man for the cartel. So you can tell something is happening. So thank you so much. I hope I answered all the questions from the El Mayo kidnapping, and that's exactly what it was. And it, being it a criminal or not a criminal, they just can't go and just take someone and fly them to a different country. They just can't do that. They have to have some paperwork. So there has to be an extradition and a judge involved in that. They didn't have that. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much. God bless you. And they did that to Richard too, didn't they? They just took him. They just took him, and he needed to have whistleblower protection, and they just took him. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back. Again, share and then sign our petition for a review of Richard's record. That would be amazing. Thank you so much. God bless you, and I'll